What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And this guy G-Face, Ghost, Little Ghost, you guys may recognize him from this viral video.
Gangland, the southern side. I'm right here with the homie from White Fence. Check it out. If you ever in Los Angeles and you are here handling business, make sure you tap in with some solid homies for your own security. The streets is dangerous. If you're not tapped in, you will get stepped on. Believe that. You will get stepped on. Believe that. The streets is dangerous. Tap in. Tap the fuck in.
Who is that guy, right? G-Face from White Fence, apparently. But is that all that there is to it? So I'm not gonna put a label on anybody. I'm gonna leave this for you guys to decide. But I have some questions, right? For one, is the dude an informant? And we're gonna look at some paperwork, and you decide. Two, is he a hood hopper? Because he was real big with Armenian power at one point, and now he's saying that he's white fence in this video, right? Three, did he really tell the truth about the first time he went to jail and prison and what that was like? And so there's receipts for all the stuff. I'm gonna ask you guys. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And finally, why is any of this an issue, right? And so let me kind of break down what Swifty Blue has going on real quick. It's not something I've spoken on up until this point, but I figure this is a different angle. Let's get it. So first off, let's take a look at this paperwork, right? Here's the case name. I will put a link to this appellate decision inside the description so you can go read it all for yourself. Background, basically February 29th, 2008. Armenian was charged with intentional, willful, deliberate, premeditated murder of Yuri Kachikyan, and another person and some other stuff, right? All counts were based on events occurring on June 26th, 2007. So let's see what happened. The evidence of the trial was this. This girl testified between 4 and 5 o'clock on June 26, 2007. She went to Brand Park in Glendale. She's hanging out with her friends, a bunch of females, and standing around a Cadillac when Yuri Kachikyan, also known as Ghost, and someone she knew only as his cousin, came to meet them. She knows Yuri as a dangerous person and a police informant, but on the phone, she had told him to come over and hang out, thinking it was safe at the park in the daylight. On the phone, Yuri told her he was strapped, meaning that he had a gun. So Yuri and his cousin are standing by the Cadillac talking 5 to 10 minutes. A white Infiniti driven by Abramayan or Snoopy drove up, words were exchanged. Yuri, pulling out a black gun, walked towards the car. Abramayan fired 5 shots from the passenger window. Yuri ran down a hill. There were 3 bullets in a Cadillac. The Infiniti drove off. Yuri and his cousin jumped into their car and chased after it. And then afterwards, there's some communications between Snoopy and the girls. So what does Yuri say happened? Yuri testified that he went to Brand Park on that day. He was talking to the girl outside the back passenger of the Cadillac. White SUV stops for a minute. Yuri approached the SUV. Shots came from the passenger side. He was high out of his mind on marijuana. Didn't know what he was doing or what was going on. Yuri didn't see who was in the car, just 2 bald heads. One of them said something. Yuri answered, "Get the F out the car," something like that. Caught a glimpse of a gun, turned around and started running downhill toward the playground area. Yuri testified that on that day, he had no face, neck, or head tattoos. At the time of his testimony, he had a tattoo on his forehead saying "Green-Eyed Devil" and 2 tattoos saying LA, one on his head and one on his cheek. Yuri explained that the forehead tattoo was his rapping moniker, and the other tattoos were just the city he was from. Another tattoo, SOB, referred to a record label / crew. None of the tattoos was gang related. Yuri admitted that at the preliminary hearing, he identified Abramayan as the driver and the person who shot at him, and he told the police that Skinny was the other person in the car. All right, so the paperwork is the paperwork, but how do we know this is the same Yuri? Yuri is a very common Russian name. The nickname Ghost, right? It could be other people named Ghost. But in the paperwork, they mentioned some specific tattoos. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Green-Eyed Devil on your forehead is not a super popular tattoo. However, Ghost or G-Face, as we know him now, has it tattooed right there on his hairline. And he happens to have a big LA on top of his head, and he happens to have an LA on his cheek. So I think it's pretty safe to say that is him. Now, again, what you think of the paperwork, you decide. So you'll notice that G-Face, right, is introduced as Swifty's homeboy from White Fence, and even throws up a White Fence hand sign. So my question is it true that waffles is a derogatory term for White Fence? And if so, I wonder if they've seen or heard this song that G-Face did once upon a time when he was still Little Ghost.
Fuck mierdas, fuck waffles, fuck fake team, fuck all my enemies. Yeah.
Are you allowed to be, say, Armenian Power 13 and later become White Fence? Because it's pretty clear that Little Ghost was pushing Armenian Power tough. There's pictures of him with Armenian Power people. He's literally made Armenian Power songs.
She's there dipping in the drop top pants, Lil Ghost Capone, sitting up on the hands. Got the Glock on my side, extra clip for backup. Extended clips in case these busters act up. Posted on the block with my boy Lunatic, throwing up AP as the guns go click. From the LA County jail all the way to Twin Towers. Stuck to the homies from Armenian Power. On the brain in the streets of Killer Cali. My homie Maniac, yo, what's up, S.A.? Keep throwing up that A to the beat, that's it. This is some dedication to all my true homies. You know who you are, all the rest of you is phony.
It's that Armenian Power gang and we riding, throwing up the west side, still low riding. Raised by the streets, I love the gang bang. It's that west side Armenian Power gang.
He started off in music as an Armenian Power dude. Again, I don't know when he became White Fence. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not in down south politics. So somebody hop in on the comments, man. Let me know if that's a common occurrence or if that's even acceptable.
What sent you to prison?
So basically, the first time I went in, I was actually 14 years old. Back in 2000, they had this law called Proposition 21, where Governor Gray Davis, I don't know if anybody remembers, but he had a law that passed in a Prop 21. Any juvenile under the age of 18, if you committed any hideous crime, you could be charged as an adult, basically. So back then, if you were a juvenile, for instance, if you're a juvenile, you commit a crime, you go to juvenile hall for a few months, you're out. My case, I had a robbery, but it was me stealing some ice cream, right? But because of the fact that it was a robbery, they charged me as an adult. So the first time, they gave me 6 years, okay? I was 14, I went in, I got out at the age of 21. But like I said, I fought my case for 2 years, so when I actually did go to prison, I was 16 years old. So imagine at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, my cellmates were 40 years old.
Yeah, they're adults. Yeah,
adults. So that timeline doesn't really make sense to me because I was in prison when Gray Davis was governor and, fairly good at kind of keeping track of laws and whatnot. Yes, it's true. You can get tried as an adult at 14. Absolutely. Depending on the severity of the crime at that time. But going to an adult prison at 16, he said he fought his case for 2 years. That's crazy. You fight stealing ice cream for 2 years and you still wind up with 6 years. With a 6-year sentence, that's, I don't know what you was fighting for. But nonetheless, then he says I was 16 years old and I had cellmates that were 40. You would go to YA at 16 and then perhaps go to prison afterwards. He said he got out when it was 21. So he probably could have just stayed in YA the whole time, but who knows? Nonetheless, I have never heard of a 16-year-old in a cell with a 40-year-old in an adult prison. That doesn't mean it's never happened. Feel free to let me know. But in this time frame, that just doesn't make sense. I feel like that story is exaggerated. So let's talk about Swifty Blue, right? I haven't talked much about him intentionally. I haven't felt like I really had much to add to the conversation. But what I will say is this. The dude is trolling, right? I don't think many people take him seriously in terms of in his own community and in his own little network. I think they get that he's being a character. Outside of his little network, though, I think sometimes people do take him more serious. The issue is here for me, and why I bring his name up, is because he says this is my homeboy. And Swifty does present himself as somebody who is tapped in. is somebody who is out here in the streets but living by prison politics, right? Even though he never been to prison. And that's how he presents himself. And no matter the joking, no matter the extremes he goes to, you literally did a video talking about you better check in, and you're standing next to somebody who quite possibly is a lying hood hopping rat. And you talking about you can get hurt out here? Come on, bro. That's not a good look. Like, you should do your homework. If you're going to present yourself as somebody that's carrying that banner, do your homework on who you're going on camera with. And that's the irresponsibility. That's the youthfulness of Swifty Blue. I don't too much trip off the other stuff he says. Again, I think he's a clown. I think he's being a clown on purpose. He's doing it for the attention. I do think that there's consequences to being a clown sometimes. And what he faces or doesn't face is none of my business. I know that he does have some connections with some people who could look out for him, but I also don't think that those people want to be embarrassed by him either. Probably depends on the size of the checks that he's cutting, but hey, the same thing happens up north, right? So that's it, man. This dude, G-Face, Little Ghost, Yuri. You guys decide. Tap in on the comments, man, and let me know. Who do you think this person is? What do you think this person is all about? And do you think it's a good look for Swifty to be kicking it with dude?
I'm telling you, man, karma's a bitch. This is some real ass shit. Ain't nothing more sweeter than being a loyal motherfucker, being good, because at the end of the day, I try to stay alive on these streets by motherfuckers saying, yo, this fool's solid. He ain't never did me dirty. He ain't never stole a dime from me. I did business with him. We were solid. I don't have to like him as an individual, but I know he ain't no piece of shit.
Help others move with excellence, man. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. Take care.